Greetings everybody. I'd like to show you this example about how a bar graph could be very misleading. Okay, so in this bar graph, which I'll enlarge in a minute, there's nothing wrong with the numbers. I assume the numbers are perfectly accurate. Okay, it's the appearance of it, it's the way it looks, it's the way it's drawn. And let me show you how that is. All right. So let's see. Let's go look at the enlarged version. Here we go. So I've taken that graph that I was just referring to on that question, and I've enlarged it a little bit and made some notes. And the way it appears to me is that if this is the fourth quarter sales, like if the vertical length of this bar represents the fourth quarter sales, and if this is the third quarter sales, it looks like the third quarter sales are 4 times as much as the fourth quarter sales. I mean, if I look at the size of this bar and look at the size of this one looks about 4 times as big as that one. But I mean, that's just the way it looks. I mean, the way it looks doesn't mean it's the way it is. Okay, the numbers, I mean, if the number was 4 times as big, that would be more accurate. All right, so I think here the appearance is deceiving. Now, the reason is that the vertical scale doesn't start at 0. Okay, that's what makes the sizes of these bars way out of proportion of each other. All right, so let me show you, like, if we could correct this, if we could start at 0, what we'd be dealing with then, and why it would be more accurate. Okay, so here what I want to do is take that same graph I just showed you. I noticed it started at 90 on the vertical axis and it went up to 130, but I wanted to figure out all the counts in between. That way I could redraw this in a more accurate way. So what I did was I took 130, this upper value, minus 90, this lower value, and then I noticed that there were 8 blocks, you know, counting up from 90 to 130. So that if I do that, if I take 130 minus 90 and divide by 8 blocks, that tells me how much each block is worth. And if you do that, you get 5. So each one of these jumps, each one of these blocks is worth 5. So it's 90, 95, 100, 105, and so on. So the truth is that, you know, this third quarter sales is not 4 times as much as fourth quarter sales. The truth is third quarter sales is, a little bit over 120 on this graph. Okay, and that's in thousands of dollars, but it's a little over 120. And then fourth quarter sales is, maybe like 97 or so, between 95 and 100. And that's not that much different, okay? The fact that this graph started at 90 is what made it look so different. It's like you're not seeing the whole picture that way. Because where do these bars start? They start down at 0 and they go up. So here it's like we're just seeing an incomplete picture. So here would be a more accurate way to see it. Okay, so what did I say? That third quarter sales go up to somewhere between 120 and 125. So I drew another graph by hand, and I started at 0 and I counted by 25s up to 125. So these third quarters, they should be a little bit less than 125, and so I got that as best I could to be about 123 or so. Okay, so there's third quarter sales. Fourth quarter sales look to be about 97, some maybe midway between 95 and 100. So again, I drew it up to here, just under 100, and look, they're not that much different. Okay, so yeah, that was really misleading, the way this graph was drawn. The fact that it didn't start at 0, the fact that you were just looking at the top part of the actual graph made it look so misleading. All right, so it's actually more like this. Third and fourth quarter really aren't that much different. Third might be a little bit more than fourth, but it's not 4 times as much, which is what that original graph made it seem like. Okay, so that's why we would choose the answer. The large gap in the vertical axis makes it appear that the sales for the third quarter are disproportionately larger than the others. Okay, I compared the third and the fourth because that's where the exaggeration was the most. Now that second part, redraw the graph so that it's not misleading. Well, I mean, so we talked about it, the more accurate way to do that would be we'll start at 0 and we'll go up. You know, we won't just look at the top part and compare that way. Anyway, so that's how, you know, graphs can be misleading. I mean, that's someone may want to give you the wrong message and present you with a graph that's not drawn correctly, and you just look at it without considering what the numbers are, and you may get the wrong message. So always be critical of the numbers. The appearance is nice if it's drawn correctly, but I guess at the end of the day, the numbers are what matter.